Hi everyone, it's Nicole Abyssinio. I'm continuing on this prayer series, and today I really wanted to talk about when God says no. There are some prayers that are just not going to be answered because they're out of God's will. When Jesus prayed in the garden, when he was begging for there to be a change in the plan, when he cried tears of blood, asking for the Lord to not have him crucified, to not have to suffer that. Okay, God said no. If God says no to Jesus, who is his own son, and if God said no to Paul, who was one of his greatest absolute apostles, Paul asked 3 times for the one thing that he asked God for to be taken, and the Lord said no to him. The Lord said what? My grace is sufficient for you. There are things that the Lord is going to say no because he's looking at the bigger picture. Okay, the bigger picture is for all of us, for all men, and he will allow us to suffer and he will allow us to sacrifice if it is for the greater good. And so often we're stuck in, our lives and what we go through, which is fair. I mean, we're all allowed to do that, but at the same time, that's just not the way that God's looking at things, and his ways are not our ways. And once we actually can open up our perspective to that, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, so please understand, a lot of you don't know, I went through horrific suffering for a very long time. I almost died. I was in bed for 6 months in horrific pain every single day, all night. I didn't sleep for a year that my hair was actually going gray during this time when I was ill. And I will tell you that even though the Lord was not answering my prayer at that time, he had his reasons. And there were people all around me who witnessed that and whose lives were changed because of it in positive ways, that they were able to go on and do amazing things and have freedoms in their own life, or to be able to help others because of what they saw me going through and how it affected them. And so one thing that I learned is that we're human beings. None of us want to suffer. But once you can understand God's way, and that although he wants us to have joy and peace and all of those things, sometimes he allows us to have suffering for a greater joy later, for a greater appreciation or greater blessings later, or not for ourselves. Maybe it's not for us at all, and maybe we're going to have that in heaven, and that here on earth, that's really to help others. Maybe it's purifying us for our souls and for what needs to happen. And so I just ask you, to take comfort in that. I definitely 100%, once I realized that I could, offer my suffering up for others, that was something that changed everything for me. It changed my life, and I know it changed other lives. And, that was an amazing gift. And so even though I don't want to do it, and I'm scared of the suffering, and I'm miserable in the suffering, I'm trying to learn, and I have been learning, and I've been coming a long way, and I ask you to try this too, is to, Paul was singing in prison. He had joy there. He was able to find joy in the midst of these circumstances because, again, as God said, his grace is sufficient in us, and he will provide us the strength to get through those things and to go through whatever it is. And I just want you to know today that it does not mean that he has abandoned you. It does not mean that he has forsaken you. The Lord loves us all, and he is with us at every step of the way. So thank you so much, you guys. I'll be with you next week for the next series.